absolute pleasure to be having this discussion with Dr. Eric Ravussin today. He's a world expert in obesity, and we are planning to discuss about the future of obesity research. Eric Ravussin has published more than 700 manuscripts in peer-reviewed journal, and I have known him for a long while, since the 90s, and I have learned so much from him that I'm pleased to be having this discussion with him. In spite of some signals that the obesity prevalence may be reaching a plateau in high-income countries, in low-income countries, the obesity prevalence is still growing. And same thing in low-income populations for the same country. There's also an impact, a notable impact by race and ethnicity. And for instance, Black and Hispanics have a much higher prevalence than Caucasians in the US. Also, there's a steady increase in Asian and Pacific Islanders and people who define themselves as multiracial. And this is an important point in drug development in obesity, because in general, these populations are underrepresented in clinical trials. And it's important to have strategies to maximize the representation. Drug development in obesity, we experience in drug development in obesity periods of great excitement and enthusiasm, but unfortunately many times followed by failures, frustrations, drug not reaching the markets, and other ones early withdrawn. As you can see in this slide, most of the drugs approved in obesity treatment were withdrawn due to safety concerns. And it was late in the last century that a better understanding of the role of the enteropancreatic hormones in the regulation of energy intake and energy metabolism led to the identification of different targets for obesity treatment, like signals from the gut with CCK, GLP-1, GIP, and others, but also the pancreas with amylin, and also from the adipose tissue with adiponectin, for instance. It was only 10 years ago, in 2014, that the first GLP-1 agonist was approved, after several years in the market for diabetes indication. And most recently, semaglutide, and last year, tirzepatide, now a GLP-1 GIP agonist, were approved for the obesity treatment. And these last two ones leading to two-digit mean weight loss. And last year, the retatrutide phase 2 data was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, with this triple agonist, GLP-1, GIP, glucagon agonist, led to almost a 25% weight loss in the highest dose at week 48, with 100% of the patients in this dose reaching the 5% weight loss, and approximately 90 and 80% reaching 10 and 15% weight loss. So we are now in an exciting timing in obesity research, with these new drugs leading to this weight loss. And we want to discuss today what is coming next. And we want to Dr. Ravussin's opinion about the future of obesity research, potential complementary mode of actions to incretin, what aspects of the energy balance can still be considered and targeted, and how to maximize fat loss and weight maintenance. Well, several points. Dr. Ravussin, your thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Filozof. I'm going to call you Claudia because we have been knowing each other for a long time. And to me, this is very exciting. After 40 to 45 years of research in obesity, there is all this discredit. Yeah, that's a disease. It's accepted as a disease, but it's poor behavior. And now we have drugs which are very potent and efficacious to target this disease. And like you said, since 2014, when liraglutide was put on the market after Byetta first and all that, I think that there is some credibility that this is a disease, we can target this disease. I want to show one slide. Energy balance is not just energy in and energy out, but it's really carbohydrate in, protein in, and fat in, versus what is oxidized. And I learned that a long time ago from J.P. Flatt, and he's one who has influenced my thinking. And he's saying the critical issue with weight gain and obesity is not intake or expenditure taken separately, but it's the adjustment of one to the other one in ad libitum condition. And this is true. And now, you hear all the time a ketogenic diet is going to do that, but it's different composition of the diet. A low-fat diet is going to do that. And I think we have to keep in mind that this is not energy in and energy out, but it's carbohydrate, protein, and fat, which are dealt differently. Now, what I want to show here is what is energy expenditure. Energy expenditure can be broken down in sleep energy expenditure, the energy cost of arousal. If you add these two, this is really resting energy expenditure, the thermic effect of food, the non-exercise energy expenditure or fidgeting, and then the exercise, the voluntary, energy expenditure. And I've done all my career in measuring by indirect calorimetry and room calorimeter all the components of that, and also in free living condition using, on the right hand side of this slide, the doubly labeled water. And I think it's important to know that we can measure all the components of energy expenditure. I wish that you guys could invent a collar that you put around the neck which would count your calories, the calories from fat, the calories from carbohydrate, and the calories from protein. I bet you that one day it's going to be possible to do that. And then we have everything we need to really understand energy balance. Now, here, I want just to make a point that, we always, all the history of pharmacotherapy for obesity has been targeting the central nervous system and mostly food intake. But I think we have to keep in mind, again, that this is not only energy intake, but it's energy out. And we are facing that now with this new GLP-1 agonist, showing that you have a drastic weight loss, but with that, you have also a drastic fall in energy expenditure and fall in fat oxidation. And I want to show you just old studies of mine published in the New England Journal of Medicine, showing that those who have low metabolic rate or 24-hour energy expenditure are at much higher risk of gaining weight, and this is among Pima Indian, than those who have high metabolic rate. And this is the same for fat oxidation. Here you have good fat oxidizer, and they gain less weight than those who are poor fat oxidizer. And we have to keep that in mind when we treat patients, that we have to maintain as much as we can the energy expenditure as well as the fat oxidation.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting concept about it's not everything about reducing energy intake. Can you give us an example how this reduced rate of energy expenditure can lead to weight gain?
Yeah, Claudia, I jumped ahead with the slide, but anyway, this is, I'm going to give you the ultimate example. I was fortunate of being part of an experiment done on the 11th season of The Biggest Loser. The Biggest Loser was a TV show in the United States, basically having enrolled people with obesity, and the goal was to lose the most weight. And the winner was receiving, I don't remember, $250,000 at the end of the competition. And this is the winner here of season 11. This is at the entrance in the competition, and this is after 6 months. And you can see that he went from approximately 200 kilos to, I don't know in kilograms here, but it's about 90 kilos or 80 kilos, and the weight loss was more than half of his weight. And what we did measure is their body composition and also their resting metabolic rate. We did measure the body composition by DEXA, which gives you fat-free mass and fat mass. And then we measured the resting metabolic rate by a Hood system to measure oxygen consumption and CO2 production. And you can see the average of these 11 competitors, 11, mean age 36, mean body weight 145, after, at the end of the competition, 87 kilograms. And you can see that, of course, they had about 50% fat at the baseline, but they end up at 27% fat after the competition. And what was really interesting is what we call metabolic adaptation. Now, all your patients are going to tell you, I'm still following my diet. I'm still taking my medication, but I'm plateauing. I cannot lose more. And this is understandable. I mean, the body is defending itself against further weight loss. And I think there are two mechanisms. There is the craving, you start to have more appetite, you are more interested in food. And there is also what we call the metabolic adaptation that I'm showing you here. This is, if there was no metabolic adaptation, this is basically the resting metabolic rate of the people versus what we call fat-free mass. It could be body weight, it would be the same way. And if you had no metabolic adaptation, you would follow the line of identity for these 11 people. But what is happening is really that they fall, they decrease their energy expenditure much more than what you would predict on the basis of their weight loss. And this is, in other words, the body is becoming more efficient at handling the calories. And this person here, after this drastic weight loss here, has a metabolic rate which is much lower than somebody who never went through weight loss, but would be the same sex, the same age, and the same body composition. And this is what we call metabolic adaptation. And now with the GLP-1s, there is a big noise about metabolic adaptation and also the composition of the weight loss. And this is what I would like to talk about.
Sure. There is an increasing interest in this concept. So perhaps when you complete this description, you can let us know a bit more about the physiological mechanism that can explain the metabolic adaptation. Please go ahead with this next slide.
Yeah, I'm showing you the result I had on the previous slide was the metabolic adaptation after the 6 months of the competition. But one of my colleagues called back up all the participants, the 11 participants from The Biggest Loser, 6 years later. And they found that these people were still very energy efficient. In other words, they were still running on a low consumption of calories to maintain their weight. Now you can see here, now you have their names because they agreed with the New York Times to give their name and everything. This was the winner, and the winner, regained some of the weight 6 years later. This was the second one, which was very close to winning. He went way up like this. At this point, he decided, I need bariatric surgery, and it decreased. But you can see here that 6 years later, these people are still running about 400 to 500 calories below what you would expect for their new weight. Now, you ask me about the mechanism. I don't have all the mechanism, but a lot of people, and the NIH now is conducting a study of weight loss maintenance. And we need to know better the physiology of weight loss maintenance compared to the physiology of weight loss itself. What we observed in these people, and those are the biggest loser, those to the left here below are people with gastric bypass, and we put them all together and we compared their basically drop in leptin, and you can see that in some of the biggest loser, leptin was undetectable versus the metabolic adaptation. And you can see that this metabolic adaptation is strongly related to the drop in leptin level. Now, what do we know about leptin? Leptin is very important for not only reproduction, but also as a determinant of your sympathetic nervous system activity, which is important for energy expenditure, and also of the thyroid hormones and the thyroid axis. And I think that this is an important factor here that we identified in the biggest loser. Now, let me give you a few others. I was asked here to be part of a group of researchers to talk about the weight loss maintenance. And we also identified that there is higher efficiency of free fatty acid turnover in the adipose tissue as well as in the skeletal muscle. Futile cycle consuming ATP are kind of shut down. In other words, you know your idle metabolism is a little bit lower. Energy consuming process like lipogenesis, gluconeogenesis are shut down after weight loss. Mitochondrial uncoupling, your mitochondria are more efficient, and so on. And I think that all these mechanisms are really fighting your weight loss, and I think that this is important to understand that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I remember, Eric, one paper that we published together like 15 or 18 years ago in patients after an obesity treatment with leptin levels, morbid obese patients with leptin levels going very, very low. We didn't call at that time metabolic adaptation, but we started learning about leptin and the potential implication in this line at many years ago. Okay, please go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you.
And I was fortunate also to study 3 leptin deficient patients before and after leptin replacement. And leptin is, it didn't happen to be a drug, except for some cases, but leptin has an important role in this metabolic adaptation. Now, you all know these graphs. Lifestyle intervention. This is pharmacotherapy until about 10 or 15 years ago. Basically the gastric bypass, and now you have this new series of spectacular pharmacological treatment, which with the aspiration that not only they can equal or even beat bariatric surgery, but also they are going to be more likely to be maintaining the weight loss. And this is what I'm saying here. I think there's 2 things we have to now pay attention for new mode of action. It's the quality of the weight loss, and we want to avoid to have not too much fat-free mass loss, and therefore we need agents which are going to increase fat oxidation and therefore fat mass loss. And we have also to target basically the preservation of fat-free mass. And on this slide here, I want we published that a few years ago. Those are really the new targets for sustained weight loss. And there are many of them. Now, We know that there are new strategies to basically target the activin receptor to protect skeletal muscle loss. We have also androgen receptor agonist, which can influence the composition of the weight loss. And we have also this new combination now, the triple G, which is glucagon, GLP-1, GIP, and glucagon, is very likely, but it's not been tested in human yet, to protect against the metabolic adaptation. And hopefully CagriSema also, which is a combination of a GLP-1 and amylin, will do that. And I think that this is the future now, to try really to have the metabolic adaptation as small as possible and to protect the loss of fat fragments.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. We are in amazing time in obesity research. Very, very promising, the present and the future. Thank you very much, Eric. Any final remark that you want to bring? Any final insight?
Now, you just stole my conclusion. I'm very excited to be in this field. I mean, I've been for 45 years. Nobody believed that, we could have drugs for targeting obesity. Now they are here. The public they want their drugs and they have difficulties to find them. Now we have to work with the public health policies and the public health system to make these drugs affordable to as many patients as possible. Now, so far, we didn't have very, very strong red flag with these drugs. I'm not saying that they are not going to happen, and we have to be vigilant to see if there is any red flag. But what I like, we are reinforcing the physiology. We're not giving you a small molecules which is targeting a receptor. We are giving you peptides. We are giving people peptides which are endogenous peptides. The only thing which has been modified is the half-life of these peptides. Instead of lasting 1 or 2 minutes, they last much longer. And I like this approach because it's reinforcing the physiology.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much for your time today, Eric, and very much looking forward to continue working with you.
Thank you very much, Claudia.